Morning in the ancient Roman port city of Pompeii. The harbor was active, the streets were beginning to fill, and Mount Vesuvius sat quietly on the horizon. Then the entire city shuddered. Looking at the manicured hedges and stone basins of its courtyards, it is easy to see why this was a premier destination. Pompeii held a population of up to 20,000 people, serving as a holiday resort for Rome's wealthiest elite. The city's infrastructure supported crowds on a massive scale. This stone amphitheater, one of the oldest in the Roman world, could seat nearly the entire population of the city for gladiatorial spectacles. Beyond public entertainment, the city's private spaces were filled with detailed expression. Artworks like this bronze relief medallion, along with vibrant frescoes and thousands of pieces of street graffiti, recorded the jokes, arguments, and intimate lives of its citizens. In a single afternoon, this entire urban system, its economy, its arts, and the physical records of 20,000 lives, was abruptly erased. The residents, looking up at the mountain above their city, had no idea they were living in the shadow of an active volcano. 17 years before the eruption, a massive earthquake ravaged the region. It caused severe structural damage across Pompeii and neighboring towns, initiating years of extensive rebuilding that was still underway in AD 79. Looking at this cross-section of the pre-eruption mountain, we can see the hidden cause of that quake. Magma was moving upward, filling a shallow reservoir just beneath the Earth's crust. As the timeline advances toward the eruption, the pressure in that reservoir pulses and grows. Minor tremors continued for days leading up to the final event, but the residents became so accustomed to the shaking that they ignored the warnings. Pompeii's citizens possessed a highly advanced society, yet they lacked the geological context to interpret these signals. Their familiarity with frequent tremors blinded them to the signs of their own destruction. Around 1 p.m., a violent explosion shattered the mountain. As seen in this historical colorized photograph, a massive eruptive plume shot upward, resembling a pine tree and turning day into night. Volcanologists call this a Plinian eruption. The term comes from the Roman writer Pliny the Younger, who witnessed the 15-kilometer-high column of debris from across the Bay of Naples. Inside Pompeii, the effects were immediate and terrifying. A relentless rain of pumice and volcanic ash fell on the city at 6 inches an hour, eventually causing roofs to collapse under the weight. Because this initial debris fell over several hours, it provided a crucial window of time. An estimated 80% of Pompeii's residents used this phase to flee the city and survive. For those who evacuated during the early ashfall, the disaster was survivable. The lethal phase was reserved for the minority who chose to wait it out indoors. By the next morning, the towering column of ash above Vesuvius lost its upward momentum and began to collapse inward on itself. This sudden collapse generated pyroclastic density currents. These are superheated avalanches of toxic gas and volcanic ash that rush down the slopes of a mountain at hundreds of kilometers per hour. When the fourth of these surges hit Pompeii, it brought lethal conditions. Temperatures in open areas reached 300 degrees Celsius. Recent scientific models have pinpointed exactly how long this specific surge lasted over the city: 17 minutes. That specific duration proved fatal. The prolonged exposure forced anyone still breathing to inhale fine, hot volcanic ash, causing rapid asphyxiation. Those who remained in the city were overtaken by 17 minutes of superheated ash, which rapidly suffocated the population and entombed them exactly where they fell. In the immediate aftermath, Pompeii was buried under 4 to 6 meters of compacted volcanic material and forgotten. It sat in obscurity for roughly 1,700 years until engineers stumbled upon its remains during a construction project in the 18th century. The unearthing effort was massive. As seen in this early postcard, laborers dug deep trenches to reveal buildings and artifacts protected for centuries. In 1863, archaeologist Giuseppe Fiorelli realized that the hollow voids in the ash were shapes left by decomposed organic matter. He began pouring liquid plaster into these spaces. What emerged were precise forms of the victims caught in their final moments. Looking at this prone figure, you can see the exact posture of death, the impression of hair, and the folds of the clothing they wore. Fiorelli's casts provided a physical record of the residents' final seconds. making the human cost of the disaster visible in a way that architecture alone could not. Even today, modern forensic science is updating our understanding of the disaster, challenging Pliny the Younger's long-accepted eruption date of August 24th. Archaeologists found conflicting evidence: victims wearing heavy clothing, and the unearthing of autumn harvest fruits like nuts and pomegranates, which wouldn't be available in August. This map shows the standard summer wind pattern over the Bay of Naples, which blows high-altitude winds southwest, out over the water and safely away from the city. But as the arrows shift to the southeast, we see the actual wind direction on the day of the eruption. It pushed the deadly ash clouds straight into Pompeii, a pattern that typically only occurs during the autumn months. Based on these wind patterns and newly discovered charcoal inscriptions at the site, the modern scientific consensus now places the eruption in late October. Here we see the excavated stone ruins with the modern town and the volcano behind them. Roughly 1/3 of the ancient city remains deliberately unexcavated, serving as an active, ongoing laboratory for researchers. Today, the data extracted from these ruins helps volcanologists predict and prepare for future eruptions. The physical record of Pompeii's destruction provides the geological evidence needed to protect lives in the modern world.